Now to the magic mechanic himself, Larry Perry.
Hey, thank you so much. Hey, it's 3 o'clock. Hi, folks. I'm Larry Perry, and you are tuned in to the Magic Mechanic Radio Show. So new listeners know this is an interactive automotive and mechanical advice program where we help you with your car problems and, well, just about anything mechanical. And it's been our pleasure to do so for over 31 years. Me personally, I'm an automotive shop owner, and I've been a master auto technician since 1982. So I've just about seen it all. To make the program work, well, we need your calls, and the lines are open at 844-580-9326. To make it more memorable, I tell folks about this time of the every Saturday. If you can remember the 844 part and the number, if you can remember the station that you're listening to, which is 580 WDBO, you got 844-580 WDBO. You dial that, and then the producer will go ahead and get you lined up and get your car question ready to go. And remember, all your calls and your car questions, they get indexed and they get placed on our new Magic Mechanic YouTube channel. So other folks searching for answers like yours will be able to get the same needed information, well, years from now. Think about that. Folks will be able to play your car questions back and hear the comments years from now. So we'll have them around, hopefully help a lot of people just by you taking the time to call in and ask your question. Dash warning lights, poor fuel economy, oil consumption issues, maybe you got an air conditioning problem, maybe you got an engine that's got some issues, and you're trying to figure out the best way to go about it. Is it better off to try to rebuild what you got? On a lot of the older vehicles, we're having to build motors for them, hand build these engines because nobody has them available, so a lot of times we get into situations like that. Other times we'll go with a Jasper engine to replace them with. And sometimes, on a lot of these vehicles, you're actually forced to buy a short block, maybe from the dealer in some cases, if it's a Hyundai, a Kia, or a Genesis. Those are common issues that we run into. But if you maybe you got a recall notice in the mail, or you got a warranty question, antique, classic cars. I love to talk about the old stuff. Carbureted issues. I guess I'm probably about as close to a carburetor expert as there still is on this planet. I've been through that whole entire phase and have worked on many of them and still do, as a matter of fact, on the older classic and antiques. Whether it be a gas, a hybrid, electric, or a diesel vehicle, we've pretty much had our hands on all of them. So also remember, I have a complete database of all the listed recalls and technical service bulletins, which are so important, from around 1980 to present date. All you need to do is give us a call, 844-580-9326. Or like I said, the easy way to remember it is the 844 and 580 WDBO. You'll give our producer the year, make, and model of your vehicle, a description of the problem. You'll be placed on a brief hold, and we'll take your call in the order that it was received. And remember, you can call the shop number. I think you'd probably need to leave a message today. I don't know if anybody's manning the phones, but if you'd like to give it a try, you're more than welcome. 407-629-2661 is the number 2 Magic Mechanic. And we also want to mention the open mic option. You can go to WDBO.com on your smartphone and download the app if you don't already have it. And you can leave us an open mic car question. Just give us the year, the make, and the model, and the issue that you're having, and we'll get to those at the bottom of the 4 o'clock news break. You can also ask a car question by emailing me, larry@magicmechanic.com. I can't guarantee how many of those we will get to, but I will try to fit a few in if we can, maybe towards the end of the program. But if I can't, I will answer your email, your car question by the first of the week. All right, it looks like we still have a bunch of open lines. And once again, folks, if you'd like to jump on board, I'll guarantee you one thing. The next caller will be second up. How's that? 844-580-WDBO. And we will go ahead and we're going to take Robert. He's got a 2018 F-150, my favorite truck, but, I don't know if I like the problem it's got, Robert. What's going on?
Yes. Larry, you might not remember me, but I called you about 2.5 years ago with a brand new 2016 and had white smoke. And you suggested it was a 2.7 liter. You suggested that I get the 3.50 2018, so I did, and I'm loving it. But now, just recently, I'm starting to see white smoke, and it's got a hard cold crank start. And I still have a little warranty left on it, extended warranty left on it. But I'm curious as to, what should I do?
Now, when you say it's got a hard start, now you're saying you've got excessive cranking before it goes ahead and starts up?
No. I'm saying on the cold start, it sounds like it's rattling underneath. Something is rattling from, underneath.
How many miles do you have on this, Robert?
It's got 58,300 miles on it.
Ooh, that's awful low miles. I would almost have to listen to it to know what was going on with it, to be honest with you. The 3.5 motors, we have had literally almost zero timing chain issues out of them. And the timing chain issues on the 3.5s will need to be done at around 140 to 150,000 mile. And you can hear every once in a while when that chain gets stretched and that tensioner's coming out to take up the slack, you will actually get a little. Sometimes if you pay close attention, you'll hear a little rattle noise, and that's kind of common when they get 100,000+ mile on it. It's just normal wear and tear. But the smoking thing and the noise, I don't really know, unless I was to actually. Are you having to add any oil to it?
You suggested Amsoil only in the vehicle.
Exactly. Are you adding any oil between changes?
No, sir, not at all.
Okay. Well, then the smoking issue, that could be just excessive gas or something like that starting it up cold. If it was oil smoke, you'd probably have an oil consumption issue. And on those 3.5s, we literally we don't have really any oil consumption issues with them whatsoever. So I think you're mostly now. When you said it was hard to start, tell me exactly what you were trying to describe.
Larry, I misspoke. It's not hard to start at all.
Okay.
It start every time.
All right.
But it's a hard crank. It's just like a little rattling at first, and then you don't hear that none of the rest of the day.
Okay. So you're hearing a little bit of a noise when you first start it.
When you first started, and I'm starting to see a little white smoke. I don't care what the temperature is.
Okay. Well, that's mine does the same thing. I mean, you'll see some condensation, out of the exhaust system as the catalytic converters are heating up. If you're not having to add any oil between changes, I don't think, and you don't have any coolant loss, I don't think that, I think that's probably considered normal. How long is that extended warranty good for, Robert?
60,000 miles.
Listen, how far away are you from me? Is it a long
about
way?
4.5 hours.
Okay.
About 40. I'm in Tamarack, Florida right now.
Okay. All right. Listen, I'm going to tell you what I would do. If this is pretty progressive, I mean, this is something that happens just about every time you start the vehicle up. Robert, you need to have somebody take a look at this thing. What I would suggest, find a Napa car care center or a well-renowned independent shop in your area, and take it to them and let it set overnight and explain to them what's going on. And if you can, if the shop doesn't have any objections to it, maybe ask to speak to the technician that's going to be taking a look at this. and explain to them what the situation is. You got a noise when you start it up. You've only got a couple more thousand miles till the extended warranty expires. And have them kind of get a gut feeling with this thing. Because if it's a timing chain, where a tensioner, for some reason or other, is having a problem or anything like that, you really want to try to get this covered under the extended warranty, because it's a big job. I mean, and it's pretty pricey to have that all done on that vehicle. You're probably looking at somewhere between $1,600 and $2,000 to renew the timing chain on a 3.5 EcoBoost motor. So I would definitely get a hold of a good independent shop. I'm not going to tell you to take it back to the dealer. The reason for it being is they're going to tell you not to worry about it if it's under any kind of warranty and if they have any exposure whatsoever. But if it's extended warranty, maybe they'll tell you the truth. But I think for all practical purposes intended, having a good independent shop evaluate the noise when it's cold during cold start is probably your best bet. And if they say, yeah, it sounds like it's a timing chain, then they can go ahead and call your extended warranty company. If they want to, they can send an adjuster out and he can listen to it during a cold start as well. And that way, hopefully get it taken care of if that is the case. So we need to determine if that is what's going on with it. But considering the cost, that is the route I'm going to recommend you take, Robert. I wish you was closer, because I'd be more than glad to take a listen to it for you. I appreciate your call and wish you the best.
You've been a big help. You've been a big help. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
All right, let's shift over to Larry from Deltona. He's got a 2006 Toyota Recall. Larry, you're on with Larry Perry. Larry, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Oh, there you are.
Go ahead, Larry.
Yes, I heard there was a recall on the dashboard of the 2006 Toyota Avalon. It's like all cracked and dry. I know it's kind of old, but did you notice any recalls on that?
Well, Larry, this is kind of a little short notice for me. It's something. What I would need to do is, you say this is a 2006 Avalon?
Yes, sir.
And instrument cluster recall. Well,
It's just the whole dashboard. It's not by the instrument panel. It's just like the padding, the dashboard padding.
Okay, all right.
It goes all the way down the front by the airbag and almost down to the glove compartment.
So interior dash and components. You know what, Larry? I'll tell you what. You're going to have to listen to the whole darn show. Because I don't know when I'm going to be able to report back, but I will. And I'm going to tell you like this. It would not surprise me, because I'm going to say probably 4 or 5 years ago, my wife got a notice in the mail about her LS 460 Lexus. And, Lexus, I mean, they replaced all 4 door panels, the dashboard, the console. They probably replaced $14,000 worth of interior components, maybe more than that, under a extended special policy adjustment. I was literally floored, and that was on a 2007 vehicle. So, wow. but you just don't know, and that's the reason that we have such an incredible database of recalls and technical service bulletins and things of that nature, is to help guide us through some of this stuff. But I'm going to look that up sometime during the show when I have a little bit of time to do it. And then if you just keep listening, I'll try to give you some information on it if I have it. If not, I may have to do a little research on Monday to try to give you a hand with it. But it would not surprise me. Toyota and Lexus does not want people, thumbing their nose up at any of their vehicles because of just lousy parts. You know what I'm saying? Because that's not what those companies are known for. But you got to give them.
Can I call you at the shop on Monday?
You absolutely can. But it's really commendable when you see an automotive manufacturer take things that serious, especially on vehicles that are over 10 years old. That's amazing. So you got to give them a pat on the back for that. We'll be back right after the break.
With any problem you may be having with your car or truck, whether you're hearing a sound you never heard before or your steering wheel is shaking around, we got all the answers for you here on the Magic Mechanic Show. Now to the Magic Mechanic himself, Larry Perry.
Hey, thank you so much. Hey, you know, our last caller had called in about a Toyota Avalon that actually had some issues with a cracked dash and stuff like that. And he had heard that there may be some sort of a technical service bulletin or recall on this thing. So I told him, I said, give me a chance. And when I get a chance, I'll look it up and see what the deal is with it. Well, what it is it's not just the Avalons. My goodness, I could not believe how many vehicles there is involved with this. And they're older vehicles, too. Now, from the 2005 to 2010 Avalons, they are replacing dashes in these things because of either they're being sticky where the material is deteriorating, or either they're cracking. Now, I'm going to give out the technical service bulletin, the reference number for this TSB, and I'm going to tell you, now listen, this just isn't for this Avalon. I'm going to go through this list of vehicles, and if you have one, it's imperative that you write this technical service bulletin down, and then you're going to need to call your local dealer and give them your vehicle identification number. All right, so I'm gonna start from the far left over here. The first one, now get a load of this, how old vehicles are. 2003 to 2005 Toyota 4Runners. If they have a dash that's deteriorating or sticky or cracking, they're supposed to be replacing those. Now, that's 2003 to 2005 Toyota 4Runner. Next is your 2005 to 2010 Toyota Avalons. Next is your 2007 to 2011 Toyota Camrys. And Toyota Camry HVs from 2004 to 2010. Then you have the 2004 to 2010 Siennas, the vans. And then you have 2004 to 2008 Soleras. So you go and you figure these vehicles are way over 10 years old. Now, these interior panels, now it's got interior panels and trim, but they're mostly indicating dashboard cracked and or sticky. Now, this reference number, I hope everybody's ready. If you've got one of these older Toyotas and you have a dash issue, it's T-TCI-5120. I'm going to read that off one more time. T-TCI-5120. And the date of the issue on this was November the 9th, 2018. So if you didn't get all that and you want to double check with me, just go to larry@magicmechanic.com and I'll give you that information once again. But, you know, for evidently the manufacturer who made these for Toyota, evidently there's some kind of a backwoods deal here to where they're having to ante up and replace all these under some type of an extended warranty, which is equivalating out. It's not really listed as a recall. It's basically what is called one of Toyota's SPAs, which is a special policy adjustment. If you have the issue, all you got to do is give them that reference number and give them the VIN number, and they'll see if your vehicle falls within the category to have that updated and get those parts replaced. Hey, it's free. You may as well jump all over it, right? All right, with that being said, who we got coming up here next?
Hour of our show. We're going to go straight to the phone lines because they're lighting up for the Magic Mechanic Larry Perry. Let's go to Angelo, who's got a question about his 2017 Hyundai. Angelo, you're on with the Magic Mechanic.
Hello?
Hey.
Yeah, I'm calling in regards to a 2017 Hyundai Elantra.
Okay.
I was told that, because I only have 30,000 miles on it, it's going on 7 years old, for 30,000 miles, and they told me I need a complete fuel emission system service. What is that? Service.
Yeah. What did they try to what did they describe to you?
It just needs every 30,000 miles on the Hyundais. Not.
Yeah. Let me kind of tell you. I don't know exactly. It's probably they're probably telling you right on this one, and let me explain to you why. So many of the Hyundai and Kias out there, they're all under National Highway Traffic Safety Administration recalls. A lot of those vehicles are having the engines recalled because they just sling a rod right out of the oil pan and the car catches on fire. This all stems from low oil level in the engine, which stems from running extremely low viscosity oils in the engine. This just goes on and on and on. I mean, it's crazy town. This is a direct injection motor. And what happens is pretty much all those Hyundais and Kias during that a particular beginning and end year used massive amounts of oil. And the crankcase ventilation system on those engines has so much oil vapor going back in through them that it being a direct injection motor and the fuel is dispersed directly into a cylinder as opposed to passing over an intake valve, all that oil vapor literally starts coking up the intake valves. It's one of these situations to where I really, because I don't want to bash any car, but I mean, you got a car, it's got low tension piston rings in it, and you're going to run a really thin oil in it, a 20 weight, and then you've got oil consumption issues to the point where consumers run the engine low on oil, it slings a rod, and the car catches on fire. I'm like, well, this is so stupid. If they were just to recommend something like a 0 or a 530 when those cars were new, as far as an engine oil weight goes, they could have avoided the majority of all these issues and problems. I just, from a mechanical point of view, folks, it drives me absolutely insane. I mean, it drives me crazy. And anybody that listens to the program knows I don't have anything for 20 weight or 16 weight oils in an engine, especially here in Central Florida. That is crazy with a K. It's just they're not giving an engine a chance, And in this case here, it's all self-inflicted from the manufacturer, not the owner of the vehicle. Angelo, it's like this, I don't know. I don't even know what to tell you on this. All they're doing by doing induction cleanings, which is what I'm sure they're doing, is to offset a problem that the car has from the manufacturer, Now, I'm not saying that, any vehicle that's a direct injection motor, it doesn't hurt to have an induction cleaning done every 60 or 100,000 mile when the spark plugs get replaced. But on the Hyundai, due to the oil consumption issues most of these engines have, I can't disagree with them. 30,000 miles to clean the oil off, the coking oil up off of the intake valves is probably something that needs to be done. But it's abnormal service compared to other vehicle makes, if that makes any sense. It's a situation that, they created amongst their own by recommending the ultra thin oils. And if you've got one of these cars and you don't fall under a engine recall where they're going to replace the engine for free and hopefully it doesn't catch on fire, my advice would be, if there's no warranty on it and there's no recall on the engine, my advice would be to quit using 20 weight oil and try to use something with a little bit of viscosity so at least you can keep it in the motor. But either use a 0.30 or a 5.30, something like that. We get them things in that using the oil so bad, and the cars aren't worth putting, $8,000 to $10,000 in a new motor unless it is under warranty. So usually what we do to try to extend the life of these things is, in some cases, we'll go as high as a 15W40 oil, an oil that's actually designed for diesel engines just so they can keep oil in the motor. Just using the thicker, higher viscosity oil actually helps, an engine that's hurting. Let's just put it that way, because of the rings, and it's just bypassing oil like crazy. And those things, those cars, they're great. Seems like, until you get 80, 90,000 miles on them, and then all of a sudden you can't keep oil in these things, and that's what happens. People run them low on oil, the motor comes apart, oil gets on the exhaust, and poof, there you go. And if you pay attention, and it seems like here in Central Florida especially, the hotter it gets, the more apt you'll see cars sitting on the side of the road burning. Now, when you notice this, try to look and see what the manufacturer of that vehicle was. You'll probably be surprised. It's usually Hyundais and Kias, and that's the reason that the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration got involved with it as far as a safety issue. Because usually they care less if a car manufacturer's engine blows up or not. They don't really care. But in this case here, it's because of the fire hazard and, World War III taking place when the engine does come apart. And that's the reason that the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration got involved with this. And like I said, they can't replace engines fast enough. And it's all, in my opinion, it's all because of extremely low viscosity oils to start with. Angelo, I hope that helps you. You can Google anything that I tell you here on the show, and you can also find out other experts in the industry. A lot of them are going to agree 100% with what I have just stated. So hope that helps you and gives you an idea of what you're dealing with.
Thank you, Angelo. We're going to move to Chris from Orlando, who's got a question about his 2012 Ford F-350. Chris, you're on with the Magic Mechanic.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. First time I've called, but I listen regularly.
All right.
What happens is I'll be driving, and if I have to slow down and then re-accelerate, it will hesitate or even shake a little bit as it's trying to, it's trying to fight against itself to accelerate, and it's kind of shaking a little bit.
Let's see. What do you got? That's a 6.7, right?
I believe it's a 6.2.
6.2. Oh, it's a gas motor.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
I figured it being an F-350, it was probably a diesel. So when you back off the throttle and then you lightly re-accelerate, you're feeling, would you describe it as a shuddering type of sensation?
Yeah, that would be a good way to describe it.
Okay. How many miles do you have on it?
About 110.
Okay. Chris, have you serviced the transmission in this yet?
Not the transmission, no, sir. I just recently did plugs and wires and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Now, if you get in, if you're driving this thing and you just put your foot to the floor, does it misfire or anything? It runs pretty good?
Yeah, it runs pretty good.
Okay. Well, what you're dealing with most likely is a torque converter clutch shuddering. You know how you can cancel the overdrive when you do towing on these vehicles?
Yep.
What most likely has happened is what usually takes a torque converter clutch out of one of these is where somebody is doing a lot of towing with a vehicle, and they forget to take it out of, put it in tow mode. And what will happen is the torque converter clutch is staying engaged. And when that takes place and happens, you get extreme wear on that torque converter clutch, and it slips some and it gets glazed over, and then the next thing you know, you'll take your foot off the gas, you'll reapply it, and then that torque converter clutch will slip a little bit, and when it does, you'll momentarily feel like you're going over a bumpy road or a railroad track or something, just a little shudder, da-da-da-da-da, and then it'll usually go ahead and get traction, and it'll go ahead and take off again. Now, is this a 2 or 4-wheel drive?
4-wheel.
Okay. well, it's a little more work. You got a transfer case hanging back here too. You're not making this easy on me, Chris. You know, as it stands right now, listen, really the only thing that you could do, we could service the transmission on this thing, put Amsoil in it, and put a conditioner in it to try to help deglaze the torque converter clutch. And if that doesn't work, your other alternative is to pull the transfer case and the transmission and put a new torque converter in it. But that's what you're pretty much dealing with, you know. I can't make it sound any better than that. You know, these big old trucks, you know, it being a 2012, shoot, man, we've already got 11, 12 years on that thing in service, and torque converter in one of those takes a beating, you know, especially if you do any towing, you know. So kind of keep that in mind. If it hasn't had a tranny service, go ahead and do it, and we use a good additive. We got some down at the shop. It's called Smart Lube. They're designed to help deglaze torque converter clutches, and that will help immensely. You know, so that would be the cheapest try. Otherwise, just bite the bullet, put a torque converter in it, and be done with it. I appreciate your call. Okay. I hope that helps you, and I hope that helps other folks with the same type of situation.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Chris. We're going to go to Matt in Winter Park, who's got a question on his 2002 BMW 330xi. Matt, you're on with Larry Perry.
Hey, Larry. Thanks for taking my call.
No problem.
Hey, real quick, BMW, I replaced the valve cover gasket. I believe it was a Felpro that I did put in there, but I had a major leak from the points. It's hard to describe, but the side nearest the front of the vehicle, and it's dripping down and so on.
So the mirrors on the door? No. The gasket on the valve cover. Okay. So you're
leaking.
Okay, all right, I got that. So you replaced the gasket and it's leaking, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
I hit the leak points with some RTV, some red RTV.
Okay.
Just by doing some research online.
Understandable.
But it started to leak. I pulled it back off, looked at the gasket, and the gasket felt kind of plasticky, more plastic than it did rubber. And I don't know if maybe I just got the wrong, grade of gasket, or that's really, I guess, my question.
Yeah. Now, it's like this. Even a parts manufacturer can have a bad day and have a bad batch. That gasket has got to be somewhat resilient. You got to be able, it's got to be, compressible, I guess is the best way to say it. That way, when you tighten the cam cover down, you're actually getting the gasket has to give a little bit so it can stay compressed to seal. If it was to be too firm and not have any give to it at all when it's tightened down, then you could have a leak or whatever. But as long as you put, some type of a good RTV, me personally, when I do an engine like that, any of your corners that, could easily leak if they weren't real tight, I always like to use the silver silicone sealer on it. It's made pretty much for aluminum, and I always just had a little better luck out of it than the old red RTV. So kind of keep that in mind. My advice, Matt, would be to go and buy you another valve cover gasket. You could you're in Winter Park. You run by Triangle Auto Parts. You see what they've got and compare it. The texture of it of another one to the one you put on there. I think you got a bad gasket. I think it's just the material they made it out of is probably just a little bit too firm.
Is a good term for it, but it jumps back and forth, and and there's a little static or hiss but as it's drifting. Sometimes it'll just drift into the static and then come back, and sometimes it'll drift through the static over into the other into the second station.
Yeah. This isn't the first time I've ran in to Hondas that actually have, you be driving along and then all of a sudden the radio will either start running through channels or either it'll do what you're talking about, especially if you're like in an HD channel and it's bouncing back to another one or whatever. In most cases, when this happens, and I can't say this for 100% on just Hondas now or your HRV, but in most cases, it's usually when you're not getting a good signal. And what happens is that the radio itself is trying to pick up a stronger station. So there could be an issue, maybe some type of an antenna issue or something along those lines. Now, I get these vehicles in all the time that there'll be a problem. Usually it's older vehicles, usually 10 years old. You'll get a customer come in, they'll say, Larry, I go down the road, I hit a bump, all of a sudden my radio starts changing channels, and everybody's sitting there automatically condemning the infotainment system, the radio, the whole 9 yards. And come to find out, it'd be something in the steering wheel, where you've actually got your channel selector in the steering wheel itself. And, just because the plastic is swelling and the switch has been, probably subjected to milkshakes and coffee and everything else. But in your case, I looked up technical service bulletins on this while I had a chance to do it. And there was not anything having to do with your radio doing what you were describing. So until I guess more people complain or have the same type of issue, there's really not anything from the manufacturer to kind of guide a technician, other than the fact, you may just want to try to correlate it with the distance that you actually are from a radio antenna, to see if that maybe the distance is what's actually causing it. If it's happening when you're right next to a radio station, then I doubt that would be the issue. But if you're some distance away, that could be a possibility. I wish you luck with it, and I do appreciate you calling in with us today. Folks, with today's engine technology, are fuel injected, computer controlled, well, not only does it apply to cars, trucks, vans, RVs, and pretty much anything from 1985 on, it also applies to marine engines too. So if you've got any marine engine questions, no starts, broken timing belts, overheat issues, anything along those lines with your boats, make sure you go and you post those questions and email me, Larry at magicmechanic.com. And don't forget about the Magic Mechanic radio show every Saturday from 3 to 5 p.m. on WDBO.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our new YouTube channel and make sure you leave your comments. Hey, welcome to the second hour of the Magic Mechanic radio show. It's a show where you call in, you ask your automotive question or anything mechanical, and you can't beat the price because it's absolutely free. That number is 844-580-9326. To keep it simple, 844 in the radio station that you're listening to, which is 580 WDBO. Yeah, you should be able to figure that out. And you should be able to remember it. 844-580 WDBO. We'll go ahead and get your call, your car question indexed, and we'll get to you here just shortly. Also, we take your automotive questions and my comments, and we place them on our new YouTube channel so other folks can maybe find the same help that you seek. Plus, you can play it back anytime you want. It's a lot of fun, Go check it out. Just put in Magic Mechanic YouTube on your Google search or whatever, MSN search or whatever. Just put it in your search engine, and you pull it up, and there's a whole bunch of different shows and car questions that we've taken over the last couple years, and we've indexed them. And, sometimes I'll go to it, even though it's me, I find it so daggone interesting because it's something that I don't remember off the top of my head. Next thing you know, I've sit there and I've watched me do the show for 15 minutes. I'm like, holy cow, this is pretty cool. I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. So if you haven't checked it out, put in Magic Mechanic YouTube and click on that, and you'll find a whole bunch of the shows and segments that we've done in there. It's pretty cool. The number again is 844 580 WDBO. And if you want to call the shop, I don't know what the situation is today. I don't know whether you're going to get a recording. I don't know whether JD is fishing or the other Larry at the shop is answering the phone. So if you want to take a shot at it, it's 407-629-2661. If nothing else, you will darn sure be there at around 7 o'clock on Monday morning. Folks, our sponsors are very important to the show. We all pitch in to bring you the program every week, so if you enjoy it, please patronize our sponsors and tell them you heard about them here on the Magic Mechanic Radio Show. Orlando Auto Upholstery, interior convertible tops, carpet seats on anything, whether it be a car, truck, van, SUV, boat, commercial, industrial upholstery. Visit OrlandoAutoUpholstery.com. They're here in Central Florida. They've been around for years and years. Get a hold of them at 407-898-2351. They're fantastic people. I've used them for years and years. Amsoil synthetic lubricants for your car, truck, van, SUV, boat, motorcycle, tractor, bulldozer, lawn equipment. I just serviced the lower unit on my boat this morning with, you guessed, Amsoil. So it's all ready for the spring. Folks, listen, if you want to keep a vehicle for a long time without it costing you a fortune, you need to run Amsoil in the motor and the transmission. This is a polyalpha olefin oil. It runs to heat and friction as opposed to getting hot and thin and running away from it. That's why you can put 500,000 plus miles on an Amsoil engine. And then I could take it apart someday 30 years from now and there's no wear in the engine. You know, it's because this oil works different than other oils. And Amsoil goes one step further, and they also put what they call, it's a polyalpha olefin base stock is what the oils are derived from. And people go, what's that, Larry? Well, what it is, it's oils that are extracted out of irradiated plastics, believe it or not. And by using those types of base stocks gives the oil the unique ability to run to heat. So it's completely backwards of what other oils do. There's a lot of oils that call themselves synthetic, but they're no longer polyalpha olefins, including Mobil 1, which used to be a polyalpha olefin oil. These other ones, they're just wannabe hydro-cracked synthetic oils. That they put synthetic on the bottle, but there's more synthetic in the actual bottle than they are in the contents of the bottle. So go and figure that out. So who'd have thought something called hydrocracking gives you a license to steal? But it basically did, and that was done by our Federal Trade Commission. So best thing you can do, try to run Amsoil after your first oil change. Go ahead, break the engine in, put Amsoil in it, and then you're off to the races for a long, long time. If you buy a used car, if it's not knocking, if it's not smoking, if it's not using oil, switch it to Amsoil. What you're going to do is you're going to preserve that engine as it is. It's not going to continue down a downhill graph. It's not going to continue to wear and eat itself alive, just normal wear and tear. You're going to stop that by just putting the Amsoil in it. And then, like I said, in most cases on most vehicles, we only change it once a year over 15,000 miles. So the oil does cost a little more, but if you take into account you've eliminated your engine wear, you're not going to have oil leaks because of the ester in it, and you're going to be able to drive it as long as you want without having to replace the engine. Well, there's a lot of value there. Plus, you can go a full year or 15,000 mile between changes. So the extended drain intervals and the preserving the motor and transmission, well, that's worth the price of admission. If you need help or you want to convert your vehicle, you can give us a call at Magic Mechanic. To find out more about Amsoil, you can go to Amsoil.com. And for folks that don't use Amsoil or they've had issues with a motor or transmission, if you're going to replace one, whether it be on a family vehicle or whether it be a fleet vehicle, you want to consider using a Jasper engine and transmission. The reason for it being is these are professionally machined and rebuilt engines and transmissions. Any weak link there was in that whenever it was originally developed has been rebuilt. It's been redesigned, re-engineered to offset any weak link in any of those components, so the consumer doesn't have another problem like they had with a previous engine. And to back it up, Jasper gives you 100,000-mile nationwide warranty, and that's parts and labor. So it doesn't matter if there's 99,000 mile on it and you have a problem, you're going to get a new engine free of charge. It's just that simple. That's the way Jasper does business. To find out more about Jasper Engines and Transmissions, go to jasperengines.com. You're more than welcome to call Magic Mechanic and get a free estimate on a complete install. Comes with an install kit, whole 9 yards. JD will give you a price out the door, and we can stick to it. Magic Mechanic Auto Service Center, located in Orlando, Florida. Engines, transmissions, brakes, suspension, electrical repairs, and, of course, Amsoil synthetic lubricants. Visit us at magicmechanic.com. Before we get to George, and George, you've been hanging on a long time. I'm going to get to you here in just a minute. But before I do, I've got a email here, and I've got to discuss this. This is just absolutely... You know, this is from some folks that actually took a vehicle into a dealer for, I think, just some general service or whatever. The vehicle's less than 10,000 mile. And I guess they were told by a service writer that if they did anything, if they took their car anywhere other than the dealer, that he would void their warranty, just point blank. Said, so you got to come back and see me. And I'm reading this, and I'm just, you know, listen, number one, if you buy a new vehicle, that vehicle is going to be under that factory warranty, no matter whether you or a qualified shop does the maintenance and service on that vehicle, and it is done correctly. You know, the most important thing is that it has been done. The oil changes, wiper blades, air filters, anything that has to do with the maintenance, you or any qualified shop can do it. And no, the dealer or the manufacturer cannot void your warranty if you do those services yourself or if you pay somebody else other than the dealer to have it done. There's a law, it's a federal law that was enacted in 1975. It was called the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act, and that was to prevent manufacturers and dealers from making their service and their parts conditional on your vehicle's warranty. Now, if you do something to the car and you mess it up, of course they're not going to warranty that, but as far as any of the maintenance and repairs during its warranty period, as long as they're done, it doesn't matter whether the dealer does it or whether you do it or whether you pay, a qualified mechanic or shop to do the work for you. I would keep the receipts, but you're under no obligation to take it back and have the wrong oils put in your car and inferior work done in a lot of cases. So you the vehicle owner, you own the car. It's your decision on who does the service on it. But you're under absolutely no obligation legally to have to take it back to the dealer. And it frustrates me when I get an email like this where basically somebody that doesn't know any better is basically threatening one of their customers. That is ridiculous. You know, and you know, this isn't something that is discussed often enough, and therefore, I guess that's my fault. I don't bring it up often enough. But these are things that consumers need to know. They're not under any obligation to take it back to a dealer. It's their car. It's up to them where they take it to. You can put wiper blades on your car yourself, and they're not going to void your warranty. You can have brakes done. They can't void your warranty. It's as simple as that, you know. So keep that in mind. It's up to you, and you can price check shops or the dealer. If the dealer wants 5 times as much to do something, you don't have to take it and pay them ransom in order to keep your warranty in effect. You can take it to any qualified shop to have that done. If you don't believe me, look it up. It's called the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act. read it, understand it. You don't let anybody threaten you at a dealership drive-through. In order for a car manufacturer to get a longer stroke out of an engine without having to redesign the whole entire engine block, what they would have to do is put shorter skirted pistons in the engine, so that way the counterweights on the crankshaft itself would not hit the bottom of the pistons. So, and by doing that, what would happen is you'd have this shorter piston in a cylinder, and when it's cold, before the heat actually build up in that aluminum piston, and it would expand. Once it expanded, it would tighten up in the bore to where it would, decrease clearances, so any noise would soon go away right after the engine would run for maybe 30 seconds. So as soon as it got hot, it would go away. But usually on a noise like that, it's more of a little bit of a it sounds different than a timing chain. It's more of a little bit of a light knocking type noise, just momentarily when the engine's first started. But years ago, when a lot of manufacturers were trying to get a little more power out of an engine, it's like they took like a GM, for example, they took the 3.1 engine and made a 3.4 engine out of it by increasing the stroke. And by doing that, they had to go to a shorter skirted piston in order to be able to get the clearance. And so that's kind of the scenario. But there's a difference between a time and chain noise. Time and chain noise, somebody that's with a trained ear is going to be listening for kind of like maybe a sawing or a little bit of a rattle noise. Short skirt piston knock, which, by the way, usually never did really cause any problems other than the noise itself. But they have a little bit of a real light, hammery type of noise that goes along with it. Hey, George, listen, I appreciate you calling in today and checking in with us. I hope everything's fine, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you, Larry.
All right, buddy.
Thank you, George. We're going to go to Judith in DeLand. Judith, you have 2 minutes here with the Magic Mechanic. What's your question for Larry Perry? Judith, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
You're on with the Magic Mechanic. What's your question?
Judith, I am glad you called in today. I think you're the first lady caller we've had today. I don't know what we do to I don't know what we do to run all the women off. I'm sure they have car. I'm sure they have car problems too, right?
Sure we do. Sure we do. Well, I'm glad I've got you because you sound very experienced. And we're driving an old car here, a 2005 Pontiac, and it's a 6-cylinder. It's got about 130,000 miles on it, and the check engine light keeps coming on, like it intermittently. It comes on, but we go ahead and disengage the battery, and it stays off for a short time. But on the highway, any kind of acceleration after a day or so, it'll come back on. And actually, it's not my personal car. It's my good neighbor across the street, and we really don't know what to do about it.
All right, let me tell you what we can do. When the check engine light comes back on, do not disconnect the battery. Take it to like an AutoZone that is near you, and ask them if they can scan it and find out what code is being stored. They'll tell you it's a PO 321 or whatever. You're going to take that code that they give you, and then you're going to email me, Larry@magicmechanic.com, and I'm going to and I'm going to let you know what your next step is. But don't disconnect the battery until you get that scanned. Once you get it scanned and get the code for me, then I can help walk you through it. All right? Thanks for your call, Judith.
Welcome back to the Magic Mechanic Show here on WDBO, the show that can help you with any problem you may be having with your car or truck. Whether you're hearing a sound you've never heard before, your steering wheel is shaking around, or your dashboard is lit up like a Christmas tree, we can help you with any vehicle problems like that. You just have to call 844-580-9326. That's 580-9326, 844-580-WDBO. This is time for the open mic segment. Larry, we do have a few open mics for you. We're going to play the first one here. Here's cut one.
Hey, Larry, just a question. A friend of mine's mechanic told him that as a normal course of a routine oil change, he adds a quart of ATF to every oil change. It just struck me as odd. I haven't heard that other than maybe to clean up an engine before an oil change or something like that. But just interested in your take on that. Thanks.
I'm kind of speechless. Let's just say for an example, transmission fluid has got a lot of detergent in it. To free up a sticky lifter, a check ball inside of one or something like that, it actually does a pretty good job. I have seen the Amsoil automatic transmission fluid do some amazing things in some old, gunked up motors and stuff like that. But to add it to engine oil on a continual basis, or to run it like that, the only thing that you would wind up doing is you're going to affect every additive, the whole entire additive package of the actual engine oil that you're using. Transmission fluid is a whole lot thinner than motor oil, so by mixing it, you're going to actually thin the viscosity of the oil itself out. This is kind of like somebody just come up with something and convinced your acquaintance there that this was good, which in my opinion, I would not do it for anything other than just cleaning purposes of an engine that's probably been neglected. The beauty of a product like Amsoil is you can't improve it. I guess if there's oils out there that are so bad and that's what he's using, and he feels like maybe adding that's going to help prevent the engine from sludging up, but you describe it as every engine that he changes oil and he does this. He wouldn't last 10 minutes at Magic Mechanic. We might be able to work with him after I sit him down and have a long discussion about motor oils, but with his intentions of pouring transmission fluid in an engine every oil change, that wouldn't work for us. I wish you luck. I wish you luck, especially if he's doing your oil changes. Thanks for your open mic.
Thank you for that open mic. And we have cut two. Let's play.
This is Mike in Port St. John. My son got a 2023 Toyota Camry 4-cylinder, and it requires 0.16 weight. Obviously, we're going to go to the Amsoil, but 16 weight. Why do they do that?
You can't even imagine the comments I get when I get into this on our YouTube channel. It's worth going in and checking them out. There's so many people that try to give oil advice that has never rebuilt an engine or have done it professionally, and it's hilarious. I love reading this stuff. This is a situation. The car manufacturers are trying their best to squeak every mile that they can out of a gallon of gas. Now, in theory, they think that if they use an extremely thin oil, that it's going to represent less oil pump drag, and therefore you should be able to get better fuel economy at the cost of wearing your engine out. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. This is what happens. We get somebody that's got a vehicle just like yours, and this happens all the time. They bring me in a 2022 or 2023 Toyota, and they bring it in for its first oil change. Now, we know that it's left the factory with 16 weight oil in it. Now, when we raise the hood on these things with the engine running, you hear these things ticking and clicking, and the motors just sound like junk. And then we'll ask the customer, say, well, what kind of mileage are you getting out of this thing? And they might sit there and tell you, well, they're getting about 32 miles a gallon, whatever, out of it. And then we'll go and we break every rule there is. We go and we put the Amsoil 0W30 in these things. We start them up, and you can't hear the engines run. They are smooth as glass. Before, with the 16 weight in it, they're sitting there, they're bouncing all over the place. You can just watch the whole engine just sit there and literally vibrate. Put the Amsoil 0W30 in it, and the motor's as smooth as glass, and it sounds like it sounds like you just replaced the engine. The motor is as quiet as it can be. And you know what? They will take the vehicle and they will drive it, and it's not uncommon. They will call you back up and say their fuel economy increased 6 miles to a gallon. Now, you think about that. You're going from a 16 weight to a 030, and your engine runs better, it sounds better, and your fuel economy skyrockets. Now, why would they recommend a 16 weight oil, especially here in Central Florida? You know, if you were in, someplace, Fairbanks, Alaska, or something like that in the wintertime, a thin oil would probably not hurt anything, and it would be, it would allow the engine to start a lot faster, and oil's going to pump a lot quicker, especially when you're minus 40. But this is Central Florida. I know a lot of folks are listening, online, and you're from one of these cold climates, and a 20 weight may be okay, a 520 or something like that in your area. But down here, we kill cars because of the heat. That is our primary concern. We got to have an oil that's got enough viscosity to keep parts separated. And the thing is, with the Amsoil, you friction-freed the motor by using a polyalpha olefin oil. And with a 0, that's as cold of a low pour point as you can possibly get. So it doesn't represent any more drag on the oil pump than the 16 weight does. But we are actually able to friction-free the motor and lubricate it to the point where our fuel economy excels. There is no benefit to a 16 weight oil. And you know what? Just like with the Kia and the Hyundai disasters, Toyota's going to wind up taking this one on the chin, and then they'll wind up having an engine replacement party on just about every one that they pour this crap into as well. Mark my word, that's destined to happen. But I can't tell you why you would think that they would have at least experimented and done some trials on some different oils before they go and they just ante up with a 16 weight oil. And a lot of times you'll talk to a mechanic and he goes, well, you know what, Larry, these new cars, their clearances are so tight that we have to run these really thin oils. Well, you know what? The bottom line is I could take a 350 Chevy motor from back in 1965 and plastic gauge every rod and main bearing in it. And you know what? I could take a brand new Toyota and disassemble the 16 weight oil motor, and the clearances are going to plastic gauge out almost identical. You can only have about 1/1000 oil clearance in them, so that you've got the oil actually separating the parts. You go any tighter than that, when the engine gets hot, they'd swell up and lock the motor up. So engine clearances really haven't changed. When you get some service writer sitting there trying to tell you this crap, just ignore them, because they're out of their mind. They're crazy. They're just telling you to run an oil that's going to take your engine out before you get 100,000 miles on it. So the dealer or the manufacturer isn't always right.
All right, we're going to go to the third open mic here. Play cut 3.
Hey, Larry. 2007 Chevy Cobalt. Got 80,000 miles on it. When it gets below a quarter tank, has less than 100 miles to go, it starts acting like it's running out of fuel. And the more you step on the pedal, the more it acts like it's running out of fuel. Thanks for everything you do.
Usually when we have a problem like that, it's normally a fuel, it sounds like a duck, looks like a duck, and it walks like a duck. We have a fuel starvation problem there of some sort. A lot of times where the fuel pump actually attaches to the fuel pump module, sometimes we can get a problem in there. Something maybe is starting to leak. Sometimes a baffle will actually come detached inside the fuel tank itself. Now, when I say a baffle, all fuel tanks in a vehicle have a baffle in them. Let's just say like this. You come to a stop. If there's not a baffle in there to slow the sloshing down of the fuel inside your fuel tank, what would happen is it would all run to the front of the car, front of the tank every time you hit your brakes. And the same thing when you accelerate it. It would run to the back of the tank. You would actually feel it, especially with a half a tank of fuel in it. You would feel this fuel just literally sloshing around. So they put a baffle in there. And sometimes over the years, just from age, those baffles will work, or either they'll break themselves free. And when they do, a lot of times they can actually, just from driving, they can get lodged up underneath the fuel pump module and actually lift the daggone fuel pump out of the bottom of the tank. And then the next thing you know, you get down to a certain level. Well, you're still getting gas, but it's just kind of hit and miss. And what happens is the fuel gauge really isn't reading 100% correct, because you got the actual fuel pump that's barely being submerged at that tank level. So, in a case like that, the first thing I would do, I'd drop the gas tank and pull that fuel pump module out and inspect it. You're going to find your problem right there. And if the baffle is actually detached from the bottom of the tank, you'll most likely have to go and find you a good used gas tank. That they still should be a few out there for that old Cobalt. But that would be what would be that's what I would be inclined to do to repair the problem. I don't know of emptying the tank and trying to re-glue something like that into the bottom of a fuel tank would be wise or not. It'd probably be a waste of time, but probably locate you a good used fuel tank and probably replace the fuel pump module itself. And I'm about 100% sure that'll remedy that problem. We appreciate all your open mics today. Anyway, we thank you for taking the time to.
We got a fourth open mic that just got into our studio, so we'll play that one for you.
Let's go.
Just purchased a Chevy 3500 turbo diesel. It's a 2006 with 377,511 miles on it. Sounds beautiful, runs great. No idea if the motor's ever been rebuilt or the transmission. What should I do first? Should I switch to Amsoil? Should I get a transmission flush, fluid flush? Just looking for some information. Thank you.
Yeah, it's kind of like this. If it's running and doing everything it's supposed to do, even though it's got a lot of miles on it, you can always have a fuel system issue with a diesel like that, with a Duramax. The bottom line is, though, if it was me, I'm going to Amsoil everything, including the differential. The reason for it being is if we do that now, that there's a real high probability that we're not going to have any issues with it. A high mileage diesel engine, if it's got good oil pressure and it's not burning any oil, you know what? I don't see any reason why you should think twice about it. As far as the transmission goes, on that one, I wouldn't recommend anybody do any flushing on it. I would do a pan drop and replace the filters. That one should have two. And then go back in with the Amsoil on it. Now, on the transmission fluid on that one, you're going to need you're going to need to use the higher viscosity fluid on that Allison, as opposed to the LV or the low viscosity fluid. But Amsoil the devil out of it and run it for all it's worth. They're expensive trucks to repair, so Amsoil is your best preventative. Let's put it that way. I appreciate the open mic.
Go to the phone lines here to Henny quickly from Orlando. Henny, what's your question for the Magic Mechanic?
Hi, yes. I have a 86 Buick Regal T-Type.
Mm-hmm.
Are you there?
Yes,
okay.
yes.
And it has 140-something thousand miles on it. I've had it since 91. It had 35,000 miles on it then. And by the way, we use Amsoil. I just heard you say put it in the transmission, so I asked my husband. He knows that, and he's going to do it. But since we've started using the oil changes with Amsoil, the engine is just so strong. I couldn't believe it. So we're going to put it in transmission. But my issue now is it's a very faint when I'm driving it and I come to a stop or a light with the engine still running. There's a little bit of a grind. It's a smooth grind, and most people probably wouldn't notice it, but I've been driving it that long, so I do. When I put it in neutral, it stops. And so that's the issue.
Okay. Well, I think that car has a 200 R4 transmission in it. You know what? I'm going to tell you, and to be fair with you on this one here, I got a gut feeling that if you put it in neutral and you unload the drivetrain on this, that's telling me there may be something transmission-wise that there's a reaction shell and a sun gear in that transmission that is common to give you some problems. We've seen a lot of it back in the day. Email me, Larry, at magicmechanic.com, and I can get into more particulars, and I'll have more time. And we'll see if we can't give you a hand. Folks, thanks for tuning in. You listeners, customers, show sponsors, the reason we do the show, and I have a job. You can tune in every Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time in Central Florida on 107.3 FM, HD Radio, FM 96.5, 2, and AM 580 worldwide at WDBO.com, and click Listen Live, or just tell your smart speaker to play WDBO radio every Saturday at 3 p.m. If you need help with your vehicle, you can always call Magic Mechanic at 407-629-2661. Visit our website, magicmechanic.com, or also email your car questions directly to me, Larry, at magicmechanic.com. And don't forget to visit our Magic Mechanic YouTube channel, and don't forget to subscribe. And until next week, be safe in and out of your car, and we'll see you back here next Saturday at 3 o'clock.